Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Prime 1 Studio and Blitzway 1/3 scale statue unboxing and review video. Now today we are going to be taking a look at the very controversial Dark Knight Joker. Now I got mine from Sugo Toys. They are unfortunately sold out at the time of filming this video, but do keep an eye out on their website. They have a ton more Prime 1 stuff. I also have to say a massive thank you to my buddy Slam Collections for helping me film this review. It was a daunting task. This is a very big piece. Now, I don't usually showcase the box art on my statues, but this looks really good. You do have a ton of images of the statue itself, plus the cast and crew responsible for its creation on the back. And as you can see, K.A. Kim's name is featured prominently. We know K.A. Kim, she does amazing work. She's insanely talented. Now, there is an additional bust, also in 3rd scale, with a brand new head sculpt, also done in collaboration with Blitzway, that is compatible with this statue. It is coming out soon, and I have pre-ordered it, so definitely stay tuned to the channel because we will be doing a full unboxing and review on the bust, and then installing that head sculpt on this body, because I am very curious to see which head sculpt I prefer. Now, as I said, this is a very controversial piece. Initially, people were really excited for this statue. The concept, the pose, the head sculpt, the way they've done the sculpted hair, it was a win. Then, however, we started to see some pictures from people who had this guy in hand. And let's just say he didn't have the warmest reception. Now, I will be doing close-ups on the head sculpt, and fingers crossed it will be able to show you what he looks like and help you decide whether or not you want to add him to your collection. Now, at the start of the video, we've done some moody atmospheric lighting, but throughout the course of the rest of the video, we've gone with straight up neutral lights with very minimal correction. So it should give you the best idea possible of what this head sculpt is going to look like in person. What we do need to do first though is get all of his accessories out here, laid out in the light box, and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces, and surprisingly he comes with a ton of stuff. Now, the instruction manual does give you a rough idea of where everything can go, but because nothing is pegged down, you can get super creative with it and basically customize your display base to look the way you want it to look. You will see my preferred combo a little bit later on. Now, you do get 2 of these very heavy polystone gas canisters. They do have 20 liters sculpted in up top and a ton of texture on the surface. Now, they do look a little bit plasticky. I think that's because you only have a couple of rust spots here and there. They should have gone way heavier on the weathering. I know Prime 1 can do it, but here they went a little bit light on. I think they did that because these are just background pieces and they don't want them to necessarily steal your attention. You do have one though that's sculpted in the open position, and this is made of a rubbery plastic, so you don't have to worry about breaking it. I like to leave that one lying down as though gas is literally about to start pouring out. Now, you do get his grenades, even though he's not in the pose to actually use them, but they can be stored in his jacket. You will see that a little bit later on. They are all slightly different from one another, especially in color, so when you go to install them, the instructions should make a lot more sense because they are kind of color-coded. You also have some nice weathering and washes down in the crevices, plus the metal sections are plastic, but they actually do look like metal. They are suitably shiny. You do of course have the string with a real metal ring up top. Now, if you do get the bonus version, you will be receiving the bank robber mask. Now, unfortunately, he can't actually wear this, and it's not detailed on the inside. This is more meant to be just displayed either inside or on top of the display base. The paint applications are relatively simple. Some washes in the crevices, some light scuffing up top, and then the red and blue sections have been scuffed away, so it looks like a proper, worn, aged mask. Now you also get these two little LED lights. They have magnets on one side, so they magnetize up inside the base, and when you push the top, they do light up. You get one red one and one orangey yellow one. Now, unfortunately, the batteries do not last very long. I would have been perfectly fine if they'd just done one of these and put a big honkin' AAA battery in there, but having two and being two different colors, yes, it is a nice touch. Now, you also get a ton of Jokerized bills. You can see very clearly they have been Jokerized. The other side is relatively straightforward. You can remove the individual notes and you get one stack that is fully burnt. Now, these don't have a set position on the base. You can get super creative with it and put them wherever you want them to go. You also get a couple of police lines and some 3M adhesive tape to stick them on the base. Now, those are a little bit tricky to work with, but I'm really happy with the combo that I ended up with. You do get one hand for the left side, and it's him holding his Joker card. The Joker card is fully sculpted. It's not actually made of cardboard, which is a good thing because it's not going to fray around the edges. And if you do get the bust that comes with the interchangeable head sculpt for this statue, you get another Joker card with a different print on the surface. The glove itself looks great. It actually looks slightly baggy at the fingers, which is a very nice touch. A ton of texture has been sculpted into the surface, and you do have multiple washes of paint. Plus, the buckle and the button have been picked out as well. Now, you do get two weapons. You can decide which one you want to go with. The gun is my current preferred option, although I will say, just like the gas canisters, it looks very plasticky. They could have done some weathering and a couple of washes in those crevices that you can very clearly see, but they left it just a flat gunmetal grey. Also, the holes haven't fully been drilled out, so you can't see all the way through. It does look a little bit toyetic. Now, you can remove the magazine and there is a bullet up top, and you can slide this section back, revealing the bullet through the top there. You can also fold the stock out and kind of have him holding it this way, although as you can see it does line up with the actual key, so it might interfere with that magnet. And lastly, you also get his knife. These weapons do come out of the hands when you get the statue. You will actually have to flex the fingers, they are made of a rubbery style plastic, and insert the weapons in them. They do a good job of sitting in place and not moving around, so once you have them in there, they will be secure. The blade is also made of plastic, but this does have a little bit of weathering on the surface. It's very subtle, but it definitely is there. It is a little bit prickly, so do be careful. The glove itself, though, once again, looks absolutely stunning. What we are going to do now, though, is get the statue himself out here and take a closer look. Starting off with the display base first, this is one of the reasons I decided to pick up this statue. I absolutely adore my Queen Studios Joker, and the J&D one looks fantastic as well. But both of their bases are very simple. This, however, has a lot more going on. Now, completely undressed as you see it here, it might look a little bit straightforward, but as we start to add on more and more stuff, it will come to life. Now, around the back, you do have two very detailed panels. One that has the Dark Knight logo sort of cracked into the concrete surface with the rebar being exposed through it. I love this. It's a great way of integrating that logo without it being too in your face. The other side, however, has what's supposed to be the two-way mirror from the interrogation scene. You've got a couple of cracks, you've also got "Why So Serious" on there, and some very subtle blue highlights both in the corner and behind that "Why So Serious?" So it actually looks a little bit more 3D than it truly is. Now, I really like the way this looks, But if you don't, at the very least, it's around the back, so you're never going to see it. The best part for me about this display base is it tells a story. No matter which side you're looking at, there is something to see. One side, you've got the interrogation scene. Up top with the gas canisters, you have the money burning scene. And down the front, which we're about to see, you can pop the bank robber mask in there and a ton of money to represent the start of the movie. There is just so much going on. Now, when you start to dress the display base, both with the gas canisters, as you can see, it starts to come to life just a little bit more. They are quite big on the surface. And then when you add the money, it just starts to make a whole lot more sense. Now, I have turned the lights on underneath and popped the bank robber mask up under there. This is my preferred way of displaying this display base. That crevice around the front might just be my favorite part. It's obviously been blown apart and you can store the money or the mask in there, plus those LED lights provide a nice pop of color. Now, the money, of course, is freely movable. You can place it wherever you want. Now, I like to have it so that it's spilling over the top of the gas canister kind of around the front of the display base. Now, I totally understand if this look is too busy for you. At the start, I thought that I wasn't going to go with all of the bits and pieces everywhere, but the organized chaos, if you will, kind of fits the theme of Joker. Now, one of the trickiest things to actually get looking right on the display base, at least for me, maybe you're going to have more luck than I did, but it was the police tape. Now, you do have to use those little 3M pieces and cut it down to size. But once you have it on there, I think it completes the look perfectly. It kind of shows you the aftermath of the interrogation scene where the mirror's been cracked, they put some police tape on there, and now that's what it's going to look like. Now, moving on to Joker himself, I do want to talk for a moment about the shoes. The sculpt is great. The paint applications are also really good. They look like proper leather shoes, although that could be a problem, because they're supposed to look like suede. I would have loved to have seen actual flocked shoes to represent the suede look, but this is almost exactly the same way Queen Studios did it. So if I'm not going to give them any flack, then I'm not going to give Prime 1 any either. They have some washers in the crevices and some dry brushing over the top. Plus, you do have, of course, his socks underneath and real laces, just like the Queen Studios statue. Now, moving up to the pants themselves, they are very wrinkled. I was toying with the idea of steaming them, but then I thought, well, Joker wouldn't be really pressing his suit. It would be all wrinkled and nasty. They are pinstripe, and they're a little bit darker than the Queen version. You will see that when we get to the comparison. You also, of course, have his real metal gold chain. It is a free-moving piece, it literally just hangs there. I have seen some people tuck it away if it's not something that you want to have up front and center, because it is very bright. Now, one of arguably the most important things to nail with a purple coat Joker is the purple coat. And I'm pleased to report, for the most part, Prime 1 did a great job. Now, you are going to need to do a ton of futzing out of the box. The lapels on mine were sticking up, the shoulder pad was collapsed, and that means you'll have to take your time to get it looking just right. Same goes for the inner jacket, which, by the way, is fully lined in a vibrant red, and the vest. Now, it is missing that button, which is accurate to the film. The collar does need to be tucked into the vest itself to get it sitting nice and flat. But once you do that, trust me, he'll be looking as good as possible. Now, moving on to the swap-out pieces, you do, of course, have the knife or the gun, which doesn't have the strongest magnet in the world. You will have to play around with it. You'll also have to futz with the sleeve and the cuff of the shirt, plus tuck in his long purple jacket. Now, of course, you can install the grenades. Although you can't really have him interact with the drawstring. It does hook up relatively securely, and the instructions do a great job of telling you where it all goes. Now, my only issue is that it doesn't really lay flat with those grenades in there. They are a little bit bulky and slightly heavy, so it does like to jump out. Now, obviously, it does add a little bit of thickness as well. Now, for me, I am going to be going without the grenades in my display, but if you did want to have them just hanging there, slightly revealed, you can absolutely do that, because it's a nice touch that they even decided to include them. Now, the playing card, as you saw earlier, simply slots into his hand. It can be adjusted left, right, or you can simply have it straight up and down in the middle. This is how I'm going to have it displayed in my collection, straight up and down. It just makes him look a little bit more put together, although off to the side is still very Joker. Now, moving on to the head sculpt. Arguably one of the most controversial releases in recent memory, this head sculpt ruffled a lot of feathers. Initially, the prototype was very strong. A lot of people were praising it, including me. But then when we saw those first in-hand pictures, it looked awful. I'm of the mindset that you should always wait and see, and if you can, get it in hand before either selling it on or keeping it in the display. But I totally understand this is a very expensive purchase and not everyone is able to do that. So hopefully this video gives you a rough idea as to what it actually looks like without super blown out lighting. I think it looks really good. It's not perfect, and it's not the best Joker head sculpt I've ever seen, but it is nowhere near as bad as some of those pictures made it out to be. There is a very clear separation between the white face paint and the skin underneath. The hairline looks great, the really vibrant glossy red mouth, the teeth might just be one of my favorite things here, plus the movable eyes. There is also a ton of skin texture. Now, because the eyes can move, certain angles do work better than others, which we'll discuss in just a second. The last thing I want to talk about, though, is the hair. Now, it's very detailed, but it's also very, very green. Almost too green for me. Heath's hair was this dusty blonde, so when you hit it with the green, it was a little bit more subdued. Just before we move on, I wanted to show you the moving eye system. Now, it's very straightforward. You literally just rotate this dial, and you can have the eyes looking to the side, dead on in the center, or all the way off to the other side. Now, for me, this is my favorite look. He looks incredibly devious, and it's funny how much just moving the eyes can actually alter the expression. From certain angles, as we've discussed, this head sculpt is very controversial. But from this one right here and from above, I'm starting to really like it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still super excited to see the head sculpt that comes with the bust, but this one I'm starting to realize is no slouch. You do have a ton of that awesome skin texture on the surface that was kind of washed out by early photos, and the teeth look great. They look super realistic. Now, up top for the hair, it is fully sculpted, but you do have a couple of individual strands that you can freely move around. These are actual rooted hair. Now, at a distance, you wouldn't be able to tell which ones are rooted hair and which ones are sculpted, but as you start to feel around, you actually do have quite a few movable pieces. Now, the hair, for me, as I've said, is slightly too saturated, but if you are wondering how he stacks up next to the Queen Studios Joker head sculpt, we will be doing a proper side-by-side comparison a little bit later on. For me, the Queen Studios head sculpt is the very clear winner, not just because it has rooted hair and the color is more accurate, but because the likeness is spot on. Now, it's going to be down to personal preference to go with which one you prefer, but for me, the Queen Studios one is the clear winner. Prime 1 has done a great job, don't get me wrong, but you just can't beat how realistic this one looks. Now, for a proper side-by-side comparison, here we have the Prime 1 Joker on the left and the Queen Studios version on the right. And straight up, I like them both. I will be keeping both in my display, because they represent two very iconic scenes and two distinctly different looks. Now, I have actually recently rolled the sleeves up to reveal more of the forearms on the Queen Studios Joker, because it's more accurate to the scene that he's based off. Now, the Prime 1 version obviously is a lot taller. The base is bigger, there is way more going on, and the statue himself is just literally taller. He also has the purple coat on. Plus, he has sculpted hair with a couple of rooted strands versus the Queen head sculpt, which is fully rooted. Now, it's going to be down to personal preference, as I said earlier already. Which one you are going to go with, well, only you will know that. But if you want something that's going to stand rather tall, catch the eye, have more interchangeable components, have a more versatile base that tells a proper story, then the Prime 1 version might be the one to go with. When I look at them both side by side, my eye is drawn to either of them for different reasons. The Queen one because of the realism and that head sculpt plus the rooted hair. But the Prime 1 version does catch my eye just a little more because of how detailed that base is and how much there is to look at. Overall, though, they are both really great options for Heath Ledger. But now I'm sitting here thinking, maybe I need to add a third one to the mix in the form of the J&D Studios Joker. Do let me know what you think of that down in the comments below. Now, just wrapping up on the Prime 1 Studio and Blitzway Joker from The Dark Knight. Now, going into this, I was pretty nervous, I'm not going to lie. I didn't know if this head sculpt was going to be a straight up dumpster fire, or if it was going to be excellent, or even fall somewhere in between. I'm pleased to report that this statue, for me at least, is a win. I really like it. The concept, the execution, the pose, the display base, it all comes together and tells a story, which at the end of the day is what I am looking for. Now, there are a couple of drawbacks. Number one, the head sculpt. It might still not be for you. The expression is very full on. Now, they do have the bust coming out, but I've never really been a fan of having to purchase an additional head sculpt separately to save a piece entirely. So, if you don't like the head sculpt this guy comes with, then maybe this one isn't for you. I do love the base though, there is a lot going on here. You do have a ton of smaller pieces that you can pretty much put wherever you want. You also have that police tape, which is a very nice pop of color. I also do recognize that statues wearing actual clothing aren't for everyone. You'll sometimes prefer them to be fully sculpted. For me, it adds to the R word, realism. I like the fact that I can futz with the outfit and get it to look the way I want it to look. But I know that not everyone who collects statues is used to having to move around outfits, so it can be slightly more daunting. At the end of the day though, if you have this guy on pre-order and he's coming in soon, I think you have a very good reason to get very excited. He's a darn good release. As I said at the start of the video, I got mine from Sugo Toys. Link for that is in the description below. While you're down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection. And of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.